What is going on in the world, Lubie? I mean, and good morning, people. It's good to have you guys with us. Destined to go to the racetrack later on today. You know, and Mayo's good. I mean, he keeps bringing those Friday and Saturday forms. Although, one thing I find, and I love Tony Screno, but he always ends up taking like the Saturday racing form.
Oh, does he? Does he even bet? Why does he need the Saturday one? Is he betting on Saturday?
I don't know. I mean, is that just a byproduct of being in the media forever, where whatever they're giving away, you're taking one? Like, even though you have like zero use for it.
What do you mean?
Is he watching FanDuel? I don't think so. That's not Tony's bag.
I have no interest at all in even watching any of it, and I almost grab it every week.
Yeah. It's insane, isn't it? Right? You wouldn't know how to read it anyway, right? I mean, look, it's no shame if you have never looked at a racing form. You look at it, it's like, what the fuck is this? That's probably the worst move that you can make in any kind of relationship. Try to teach your girlfriend to read the racing form. Not that she's incapable. No. Now, here's the thing. If she already knows everything about the form and she's pointing out things to you on the first date,
oh, that's great.
How do you feel about that woman?
Yeah, it's amazing.
But is she ever going to buy your bullshit when she's already surpassed you in terms of her degenerate levels, which would be the ultimate test? Because I like that when, you're with somebody. Now, this is only in my fantasies, Libby. Mm-hmm. Where you're with a woman at the track and she says, can you believe this, Christoph? Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
This is the second time he's put blinkers on this horse, and guess what happened both times? Finished last. Then he has the barn send in a bunch of money, so the horse is 4 to 5 every flash, and you know what happens with 4 to 5 favorites. People believe in them.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, and very happy to be here on yet another beautiful day here in South Florida. Just been spectacular. I don't know. It keeps getting better by the day, Lubie. When does this end? I guess you shouldn't be thinking that way, right? It's like being a Panther fan back in the day where when does this end, the season? November, December, January. Now here we are. We're among the best in the league with the possibility of once again, maybe even favored, Lubie. Could they be favored to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, a lot of people have.
Yep. I believe the last odds I saw, which was probably about a week ago, they were favored slightly at plus a little bit over 4 to 1, I believe, to win the Eastern Conference, the Florida Panthers. Certainly within the realm of possibilities. I don't know if that was just regular season standings. I would imagine that was playoffs, where they are back in the Stanley Cup Finals. But you could certainly see that happening. So a lot to look forward to on that front, where it used to be immediately you would think, geez, so what's wrong with this picture? I mean, when are we going to be out of this? Same thing. Now, the Marlins, I anticipate this year that's going to be El Dumperoo, Lubie, and I think you're in full agreement with me on that. Yeah. It would be the biggest surprise, I think, in local sports in recent history. Not that we had a couple of teams in the Final Four in college basketball. Not that we had 2 teams make it to their respective leagues championship round, and we're in there with what we thought was. Did we really believe there was somewhat of a shot? I think in hindsight, did we think the Heat were going to beat the Denver Nuggets? I did not.
No.
And did we think the Panthers were going to beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights? Had we known the extent of the damage that had been done in the previous series?
Well, I gave them a real good chance, but we didn't know that Chuck had a broken sternum.
Fucking guy's got a broken back. And we're thinking, geez, he's not as effective in front of the goal as he was. He seems to be whiffing on some shots. And they attacked him. I mean, the NHL is brutal. I was watching this interview with Ray Bourque, the great Boston Bruin, Ray Bourque, okay, who turns out, and Mayo would love this, he owns apparently a very successful and a really well-respected restaurant in Boston now. Is that the North End where all the good stuff is, Lubie? I'm not sure. Not that familiar with Boston cuisine. I've been there a few times and can't say that I could put anything defining on the culinary scene there. Right? I don't know. I just having seen it on various food shows, it seems like it's all happening in the North End. And then if you're looking for certain things, I think Guy Fieri had one of his diners, drive-ins, and dives. He had some place that was doing stuff with a lobster that I had yet to see. And a lobster ravioli, that was their big thing. But this was like the mother of all lobster raviolis. It was really, really good stuff. Anyway, I mean, we're looking at what? I mean, I think it's ringing death there when you're talking about the Marlins. This would be the biggest accomplishment, I think, of any of all of the other stuff that happened last year, notwithstanding. If the Marlins somehow are good this year, I would be amazed. What about you, Lubie? I mean, do you stand with me on this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They've done nothing. I mean, a team that made it by the skin of their teeth was pretty much luck. It was like the last 20 years of luck reversed. They got by Schumacher with the 1-run games and all that bullshit. But as we know, that already just changes from year to year. On top of that, like they lost their big bat and didn't add any.
Yeah.
So, and they already were horrible at hitting home runs. Like, how can you expect it to get magically better? Like,
this guy Soler was worth, I don't know about this wins against replacement or whatever, but
big for them.
Because that's something I don't even understand. It's a stat I have no clue how to apply it, how it's derived. Wins against replacement. And a guy, that has like maybe 3 wins against replacement is considered like he's the second coming of Willie Mays. What the fuck is that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you have any idea what that means? Wins against replacement.
You would think it would mean more, but usually
it's commonly thrown around now. I mean, as if everybody understands it. It's kind of like what is it they now call instead of just showing a guy's batting average and home runs and RBIs. It's called the not a stat line. What the hell do they call it?
The OBP or some shit. I don't know.
The fuck? I mean, they're throwing in another number. That there's no explanation of it. What am I, Rene Descartes over here? I mean, please.
Yeah.
Anyway, so prospects low for them. The Heat win last night against the Sacramento Kings on the road with a lineup. I mean, is that Darrell Wright's son? They just signed this guy. Right, and he's in the starting lineup last night because it was Scribini City, and you have to be convinced that if anybody should have those terms from Bum Phillips applied to him, he could take Hizen and beat Ewan, and he can take Ewan and beat Hizen. The old Don Shula thing. That was the first line in every media guide that came out while Shula was the coach of the team. Harvey Green, I mean, he just, I think he had that just rubber stamped right into the top of the article there. And sure enough, I mean, could Spoelstra do this? I mean, is he that good? How does he take this team of scrubs on the road there and beat the Sacramento Kings, who are thinking that, that they can put together some kind of championship run because they sort of did last year?
Well, and if you look at the Kings, I mean, their 3 best guys had good games.
Yeah.
Bradley, Fox, and Sabonis. Sabonis had a fucking triple-double. Like, they played well. It's just Hawkins Jr., Martin fucking woke up.
Who are these guys?
Robinson didn't even play well.
Highsmith, all of a sudden, you would have thought it was Alonzo Highsmith running his way through the line of scrimmage for the Canes. It was great, this ball game. Yeah, I mean, amazing job by Eric Spoelstra. And has the Heat, I don't know. I mean, what do they have that makes you think that they're going to be any good? Not much. Jimmy Butler's been in and out of the lineup. When he's played, he's been fine. Adebayo is an all-star, considered. I mean, a double-double, every night. Tyler Hero hasn't been playing, right? I don't think he was in this ball game last night. Tyler Hero.
Back. Well, he was not suspended, but he still had some.
Oh, that's right. They had the 1-game suspension for the fight.
He didn't get suspended. Hero did not get suspended. Hero had some. He played and then had a lingering thing, so they sat him.
Okay.
But Bam played well. And they got a bunch of, I don't know. I never, with the Heat, look, when I look at the Knicks, I talk shit about their team, and then I love the Heat. So it's like, okay, it's not like the Heat have a bunch of stars on that fucking roster.
I mean, that lineup last night, literally was, right off the program under Washington Generals, pretty much, by the standards that you're thinking would comprise a championship caliber NBA team. But I don't know. I mean, you can never write them off. I can't see them being back in the finals the way that they've performed so far this year. But they've had stretches where, I mean, they're on one now, right?
Yes.
Where they not won like 3 in a row on the road, and against reasonable competition,
10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And again, Butler was starting to actually play aggressive. And even that game that the suspension ended up happening, he played really well in that game. And that's really what it is with him. It's if he's the leader, they're a different team. And that's the thing that the Knicks don't have. And that's the thing that, look, the Bucks don't have. Giannis, when the Heat have been somewhat healthy, they've dominated the fucking Bucks. Like, Giannis, all he is, it's easy to take him out. It's easy to allow him to score, put up a lot of stats and not matter. For some reason, it just is in the playoffs. Like the Heat have been really good at that.
Spoelstra, has been very good at defending Antetokounmpo.
He just
No question. I mean, even if he scores like 37 points,
Yeah.
somehow it works. It's that reverse triangle in two that you were talking about, where the guys, just are running back and forth into the corner. It's great. No, they feel like they've turned the corner. The Milwaukee Bucks now they've won 2 in a row, and Doc Rivers is now 5-7. But they seem to have found some kind of a spark that's been ignited by the good doctor, and maybe they can take it out the door and be competitive. Boston, it's hard to believe. I keep thinking about your condemnation of Kristaps Porzingis and how he was a worthless addition to the Boston Celtics lineup, and it turns out. What? I mean, could he be? No, he's not an MVP candidate, but Jesus.
No,
certainly has been a nice compliment for Tatum and Brown. And, they do have their share of schleps on the Boston Celtics. It's not like their roster goes 12 deep of superstars. That's for sure. I guess nobody's does. But
no.
Are they that much better than everybody else in the NBA? I mean, they have been throughout the regular season. They've done this before, where they flamed out.
It's what the Knicks were doing. It's if the teams that were healthy had ran out to a great pace. They haven't had any injuries. The Celtics, like none of the guys they have been injured, and that's why I feel more confident in what I've said all year long. Like, Porzingis again has missed 20% of every season. Magically, this year he's not. I mean, that's a load of garbage. He's going to get hurt. That's his fucking MO. The Celtics have fooled themselves. And I think you're going to see a rash. It's what we saw with the Knicks. The Knicks were magically healthy all year. And then in like a week span, everybody got hurt. That's just what happens. The Heat have dealt with that all year. They're finally getting healthy, and now you're seeing it turn around. The Bucks have had a lot of injuries this year. You're seeing that turn around for them. The Sixers are in the middle of it, and the Knicks are in the middle of it. We'll see. If the Celtics can be magically impermeable to injury, then they'll keep this pace. I think it's worked in their favor.
You need Porzingis. I mean, not that you're rooting for.
If he stays healthy, and he proves me wrong, and that's
for
fine.
Your sportscasting credibility. And
it's fine. It's I'm not making it up. Look, I literally did the math like on purpose because I was saying it. I'm like, let me make sure I'm right. Literally, outside of his rookie year, he's missed 18 or more games every single season his entire career. So,
he's been a mess. I would agree.
So he's healthy this year, and they're using it, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're watching his minutes, and they're doing all the things. They're not though. He's playing 20 minutes a game. That's you can get hurt very easily in 20 fucking minutes.
You could get hurt in 1 minute. I mean, he's definitely fragile.
And you can play guys sparingly, and they still get hurt. That's the problem with the NBA these days. They do the management and guys, the load management guys still get hurt with load management. Like the Celtics are the best team in the East. They are. They've taken the season very seriously, and they've been lucky to be very healthy. We'll see if it continues.
The very fragile, spindly looking 7-footer plus is always a weird commodity, is it not, Lubie? Did you ever have a kid like in your high school that fit that tab? I couldn't play basketball. We had a kid named Marty Zobek in my neighborhood, and he was like 7 feet tall when nobody was 7 feet tall.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and but skinny as a rail. I mean, literally. Looked absolutely famished, this guy, and it was very awkward. He couldn't do anything. So you always admire the guy that's like just a little beyond that, where, you got like Chet Holmgren is pretty athletic for a guy that is 7'5", 168 pounds. And, were he not, banished to Oklahoma City, would he not be, probably more talked about as Rookie of the Year than even your man, Victor Wembanyama, who appears to be a cinch. I mean, from the time he, it was being talked about even while he was playing as like a 9-year-old in France. This guy, was going to get Rookie of the Year his first year in the NBA. But would Holmgren not be deserving of this, Lubie? Here's your Stephen A. Smith discussion of the day.
Well, he hasn't played as well as Wembanyama. Now, again, Wembanyama has nothing, so I guess someone has to get the stats true, and the Thunder have a lot of talent.
He's fit in very nicely with a team that's made a turnaround of sorts. Yeah.
They were a 6 to 8 seed, and really all they added was him, and now they're a legit title contender. He's been really good. Yeah. I mean, either him or Wembanyama, I could see either of them winning. The thing is, Wemby's been really good.
All right, and we spent yesterday, just to touch on all of these local pro teams here. which I did not include. I'm sorry, Jim Sarney. I did not include Inter Miami CF as part of that. I mean, do you still consider that a pro sport in town, even with Messi?
No.
Just seems like, well, we always had all of these kind of different sort of events comprised the South Florida sports scene when I first moved here in the early 80s. And you were thinking, hey, geez, when's the Grand Prix? Like, who gives a fuck about the Grand Prix? Nobody, right? We had nothing. But now I don't know. I mean, I haven't elevated, even with Messi, I haven't elevated the soccer team, the pro soccer team, to the level. Is that just me being an old fart? Geezers at Caesars. Yeah,
I agree with you.
Like where we have the 4 pro teams, and you have high level college sports, but not necessarily championship caliber, especially when you're talking about the great mystery that is Mario Cristobal. But I mean, all of these teams, they at least give you something, except for, unfortunately, your Miami Marlins, right?
Oof.
Who seem destined on self-sabotage if they're ever. What is there? I mean, is there a plan there, Lubie?
Oh, good.
Do you see anything? Nothing. But this guy is supposed to be a genius that came in, and I don't want to doubt him before he's really had a chance to, get moving with whatever it is that he's planning on doing. But and Bruce Sherman, it doesn't seem like he's evil, does he? This guy that owns the team?
No, I think he's broke. It's not about.
You really know? You don't think he owns a shirt on his back? Yeah?
He's one of the poorer owners in all of sports. He doesn't have a team. And
how did he come by his money?
That's what I don't know. And how did he get a team? That's another good question.
Yeah,
Moss is weird, I guess, or they didn't trust Moss. But Moss,
Moss, yeah.
At least he had money. Like
he's got that, ballpark. He's going to put on that nuclear wasteland.
The Marlins already had a ball.
Talk about the sphere. Everybody be lit up in that place. All right, we're going to come back. We have a lot of good stuff happening here on the program. Stick around. We're going to go pretty much the distance here today.
Yes.
As our good friend Rino Cerbone is going to join us, talk a little pucks. Don't want to ignore the National Hockey League, although I don't know how zeroed in on technical issues in the NHL. We'll get with Rino. And then Tom Herman, who used to be the coach at Texas and now just endured his first year there. And I guess endured is an unfortunately appropriate term at FAU, where he is about to get set for spring ball for his second season. And we'll see if he can orchestrate some kind of a big turnaround. 4-8 last year. He's going to join us. He's a delightful human being, though. Real good guy. And so I think you'll enjoy our conversation with Tom Herman coming up here on the program as well. All right, coming back with more. Reno's going to join us in just a moment here on the show, and I believe he's going to be video and Tom is telephone only on this one. And we'll be back with all of that in a moment. Now that.
The time!
It's 8:20. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Mr. Pentangeli, were you a member of the Corleone family? Did you serve under Capo regime under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather.
Mr. Pentangeli, you are contradicting a sworn statement you previously made to me and signed. I ask you again, sir, here and now under oath, were you at any time a member of a crime organization headed by Michael Corleone?
I don't know nothing about that. Oh, I was in the olive oil business with his father, but that was a long time ago, that's all.
We have a sworn affidavit. We have it. Your sworn affidavit that you murdered on the orders of Michael Corleone. Do you deny this confession?
Look, the FBI guys, they promised me a deal. So I made up a lot of stuff about Michael Corleone, because that's what they wanted. But it was all lies. Everything. And I kept saying, Michael Corleone did this, and Michael Corleone did that. So I said, yeah, sure. Why not?
It's now time for the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we are going to be joined here shortly by our good friend Rino Cerbone, who is the proprietor at Heritage, which is one of the fine restaurants. I mean, you talk about a place that gets Mayo's attention. It's Heritage, Mike Lubie Lubitz. And Rino, of course, is our resident hockey correspondent, as he is the brother-in-law of one Roberto Luongo. And on top of that, I mean, you talk about a baptism under fire, man. His initiation into the hockey world was hanging out with Todd Bertuzzi, for God's sake. His reputation, I mean, when you have a reputation as a kind of, a guy who's a little out of bounds as a hockey player, it's not like everybody's aiming for the Lady Byng every year. And this guy, I don't know that he ever would have been a candidate for the Lady Byng trophy. And I think if he did receive it or even consideration, he would have felt insulted. Rino Cerbone joins us here on the program. Of course, the man behind a Heritage Restaurant. And there was a Mayo sighting, I understand. Rino, how are you, my friend, at a recent Panther game?
What's going on? Yeah. Yes, I walked into a box with our good friend Bill Morrow, and I had the absolute excitement to see Mike Mayo sitting right there in the box and ready to go. And we had a good time, man. We were yelling and screaming. We lost that night against Philly, but
yeah. That was a tough one. Was Mayo all over the the giant, sandwich? It seems like that is a staple. I don't know why it is, because it's usually pretty crummy quality. But the giant sandwich, was he all over that? Was he hovering over that the entire time?
Sandwich. But when I went to the bathroom and I came back, I did find him sitting at the end of the table, and everybody just shoveling food at the end of Fighters, hot dogs, chicken fingers. So, but he made it though. He didn't choke like when he does on the Mayo.
Oh yeah, no, and he goes for the big bite. I mean, it's legendary stuff. I love seeing various longtime restaurant owners and guys that have been very successful in the business just absolutely appalled with horror as they see him butchering their food in that fashion, and then going, "Hey, this is pretty good." That does a restaurant a lot of good. We're having a little intermittent sound problem, unfortunately, Reno, but let's hope it corrects itself here.
Again, try and join back again.
Okay, yeah. Let's see if we can't get that straightened out, because we want to hear what Reno has to say now.
Sir.
That was interesting because, I mean, do you go for the giant sub when it's in there? I mean, they have like a 6 foot long sub?
What about now?
Okay. I think we're getting, I think we got it. Anyway, we're reintroducing Rino Cerbone. And so you're in a box there with Mike Mayo, and that was a losing night for the Panthers. That was a rarity, though. Teams playing lights out hockey, huh? What happened? What's on the inside there?
I mean, as far as listen, you can't win them all. That particular game, though, to me, it was a bit of a boring game. The first 8 minutes, if you watch the first 8 minutes, if you were to go back and watch that game, the first 8 minutes, they were flying, man. They were buzzing, they were passing, they were hitting everything. And after that, everything was just a little flat. And I think this happens a lot when you're on a big winning streak or the team really well. And I don't want to say pressure, but you kind of get used to winning. It's good to get kicked in the balls every once in a while and know that We could lose any game. We're not untouchable. So, it was a 1-goal game. It wasn't anything crazy. So it was good because then look what happened again. Right after that, right back on the horse.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable, too. I mean, they had a streak there where they had won, I guess 11 straight road games. And the record was 12. They either won 10 in a row or 11 in a row. Anyway, they were approaching the record before they finally ended up losing a road game. Now, had you gone on any of these hockey road trips? Because I'm thinking of all the players in sport, the guys that have to have absolutely the most raucous good time when they're traveling on the road would be NHL players, making it, you would think, somewhat prohibitive to have an extended road winning streak. So what's up with this team? Are they not partying enough?
Well, I'm not going to mention names, but let's just say I think that the 11-game winning streak attributed to when I had the luxury of hanging out with some of the boys. They came into the restaurant and I was funneling tequila down the throat. No shit. Right after that of a fun night, they went on this crazy winning streak. That's kind of the joke, when they don't have a great game or if they lose a game, they stop by and they're like, buddy, I think we need tequila. I'm like, bro, I'll give you so much tequila, I'll make you guys Mexican.
So you would deservingly get some responsibility if this team goes on and wins the Stanley Cup this year.
Coaching, it's my way of coaching.
Yes.
Seriously, and if worst comes to worst, if you're losing the battle in a corner, just a player, and you'll be sure that the puck is going to stay over there, and they're gonna cry in horror.
Now we know this. The winning the Stanley Cup. I think anybody that followed. I mean, maybe because it was here locally in front of us last year, Panthers making it from round to round throughout the postseason, and then by the time they get to Las Vegas, I mean, literally. They were in worse shape than the English patient. I mean, they were just crushed. Bones were broken, backs were broken, and little chance of beating Las Vegas, especially with Las Vegas holding a home ice and all of that. But they went ahead. They made a bunch of changes going into this year, and I thought maybe this guy was crazy, this Bill Zito, that he had gotten lost. But it seemed like and we don't know the names. We don't have that kind of familiarity with what these guys did before, the resumes, but. That's not uncommon in hockey where they just say, hey, you know what, even though this is great, we're going to blow it up. It would be like you putting out a new menu like tomorrow with all new things. It'd probably be great, but very interesting approach to this year.
At the end of the day, it's like people get very emotional and they get attached to players. It makes it, beautiful when, you have a player that you love watching on TV like that. But at the end of the day, it's a business. So, with the salary cap and all this stuff, there's moves that have to be made. And what people don't understand is it's not moves that necessarily are going to be impactful immediate. It's down the road, right? When you have to fluctuate and move money around, they're already anticipating 3 years down the road because they have to, because there's other contracts. So, for example, right now you have Reinhardt, who's the hottest player.
Yeah.
And deservingly so. I'm sure he's going to have big money. Going to let go of some stuff, and it's going to happen at the end of this year as well. We're not going to be able to try to fit him in. I mean, if we try to keep everybody, then we wouldn't even be able to have start the negotiations with them. So, unfortunately, you have to see some guys go. I mean, look, everybody was, up in arms and so upset when when Huberdeau left. I love the guy. I thought all these years in Florida, but it's a business. Look what we got in return. We got a guy that was younger, for the in Calgary. So, you just got to understand that. As far as the moves that were made this year, they weren't huge, but they were enough to keep the intensity of last year. And also, when you have that kind of connection room, you don't want to mess with it too much. So I think they did just enough to where it stirred the pot, but didn't disrupt the flow and the camaraderie in the room, because that's what wins games, camaraderie. Yes, the training and all that stuff. But when you go into the locker room at the end of the game and you guys are, high fiving, chest bumping, or whatever, and saying, I got your back, whatever, that's kind of stuff. That's what got us to the finals. We weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs.
No, looked bad. we're kind of getting more of that intermittent interference there with the sound there, Reno. Sorry about that.
No worries. Is that
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, it was cutting in and out a little bit, but we got the gist of it. And yeah, I mean, I was surprised the guy tinkered with the team as much as he did. Obviously, you have salary cap and things and considerations that come into it. Free agency coming up, whether you're going to pay the guy a boatload of money on a long-term deal.
Yeah.
They seem to have managed that extremely well. All of a sudden, an organization that you always wondered who the fuck is running the show here.
No shit.
They seem to be making all the right moves with this guy, Bill Zito. He's my third favorite Zito at this point. Nick Zito, the horse trainer, Mike Zito, the guitarist, and Bill Zito now, my third favorite Zito. And you probably, I mean, I don't mean to, characterize the clientele of the restaurant, as being all of Italian descent, because they're not. But you've probably served many a Zito at Heritage and the various
I'll tell you
places
what.
that
I
you've
mean,
been.
I don't know many Zitos, and I don't love many Zitos, but I love ZD. I tell you that
Yeah.
much. I mean, I really don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about which Zito's doing what, but as long as fucking Bill Zito's doing the right thing,
Yeah.
I'll feed him all the ZD. I'll hang out with Zito, your sister's Zito, that Zito, whatever it is. As long as the team keeps on winning, I'll take it. I don't care what your background is.
All right, I know when you're at the arena, which you were there with Mike Mayo, and it was a catered thing. But are you inclined to indulge and engage in ballpark food?
Absolutely, buddy. When
Okay.
you're having a couple beers in your system, and you turn into a bag of shit. It just goes with the territory, right? All that hoity-toity, sophisticated.
Yeah.
I like to eat like this or whatever. You're just like, give me that slider, bang it down real quick. Yeah, put a hot dog on that chicken finger, just shove it down my throat. You become a mess, and that's what makes it fun. And then when you're hanging out with guys like Mike, and
Yeah.
you're just like, Mike, you gonna write an article about this or what? You're gonna critique arena food or what? What are you gonna do? You're gonna start busting out your stylus on your phone and start writing a review? But no, it's not. It's nice to let loose. It's nice to let loose and just go to a sports game with your buddies and literally just be, like I said, just a bag of shit with the boys. That's it. We were shotgunning beers in
Yes.
the suite. What are we, 12?
Nice. Yeah, that's always good.
Seriously, what are we, 12? Like, what are we in college? Like,
What was there any concern about the behavior of the people in your particular box there, Reno?
Absolutely. Sure there was concern.
A couple
Are
of
you
people
kidding me?
come by and cast aspersions with their just the look. Yeah.
Everybody's very, we got there right at the start, like 5 minutes before puck drop. Everybody's like as if they're about to go on the ice. They're sitting in their seats. They're like super focused. And listen, once the game starts, I'm like pretty in it up until the intermission.
Yeah.
But here we come barreling in like a bunch of degenerates. We literally have beers in our pockets, snap them open. There's foam going everywhere. Mike is sitting down, call him on over. He goes, "You guys are really doing this right now?" I'm like, "Yep." And so we're hand him a beer. We're a mess, but that's what makes it beautiful.
It's a great experience all the way around. All right. Any tales from your brother-in-law, Luongo? What's he up to lately?
No tales. Well, right now he's a little under the weather.
Isn't he involved with the executive board of the team or something? He's up there in the box all the time cheering.
Yes, he's the assistant to the GM right now. So he does a lot of the behind the scenes work as far as like he's really, because he was a player and the way he saw the game, they really looked for him to the advice on a lot of future things, a lot of considerations, what he sees in the game, when that's happening, but like also to in building the team. The way we think it's going to go is that he's going to remain in the office for a very long time to come and be a major component into keeping this this team a winning team. And even if there is a bit of a rebuild at some point, again, because contracts are up and stuff like that, much his opinion is very heavily regarded for future considerations.
Look at this inside information we're getting here, Lubie. We're going to talk to a guy about the billionaires, and instead we get this stuff that this is the direction of the team. Very good.
Yeah, you want to talk about direction of the team? You want to talk about how I make my bolognese, dude? Listen, I need to start like monetizing this.
Yes.
Cooking.
You can become a sponsor of your own segment.
Seriously, next thing you know, I'm going to be a sports writer. What the hell is going on? What the fuck is the world?
It's a beautiful thing. No, it's a beautiful thing. You do a fine job, and give us the kind of insight. Not only into what's going on with the team on a very deep internal level. I mean, I thought that was great on your part, and I'm glad Luongo's involved because you see him, and I'm also thinking that could perpetuate our ability to glom our way into some free tickets, Reno.
Oh, listen, don't even worry about it. If we keep on winning, I swear to God, I'm like, we're going to own part of the arena because this is exciting. You got to strike. You got to strike while it's hot. You know what I mean? The team is winning. Get all the tickets. Like hang out as much as possible because, as you know, being a Florida Panther fan, it has taken a long
haul, yeah,
treacherous journey for this.
But we liked it. Lubie and I liked it when Michael Yormark was papering the house every night with members of the media, and he was giving you like, how many tickets you want here? And he gave me like his card and said, just call me anytime, man. Whenever you
Michael Yormark,
no
oh my God, you just brought me back, and all of a sudden I just want to start punching babies in the face now.
Always look classy, though. He always looked classy.
They were giving away tickets like it was confetti, man.
Yes,
they couldn't put an ass in the seat if they tried. They were just, I mean, it was amazing. They were like, hey, like the promotions for a Panther ticket was insane. It was like you get a free burger, free jersey, you get a hat upon arrival. Oh, limited edition.
10 entries into the 50-50 drawing. Yeah.
By the time you left it, free entries in 50. You had to back up a fucking pickup truck just to go to the game because there was so much shit that they were trying to incentivize because they just couldn't get asses in the seats. And it was real simple. Win. Just win.
It took a while. To come around. All right, Heritage. We're going to see you down there one of these days soon. We hope so.
I'll see you soon, boys.
Great place.
It's always good seeing you.
You're a great American. Rino Cerbone, ladies and gentlemen, our hockey analyst, and did a fine job for us here. Gave us some scoops and all kinds of good stuff. All right, in just about a minute, we're going to line up Tom Herman here, and one of our favorites. We met this gentleman on the scene at Talia's Tuscan Kitchen, right? Is the name of the place, Tuscan Kitchen. And that is a place that does a lot of catering for the FAU athletic department and the visiting teams under the auspices. Is Special K involved in virtually everything?
I think so. In some form.
Some form, right? I mean, whatever's going on, right? He's got a hand in it somehow, including setting up this catering. All right, and I believe, are we ready to go with Tom, Lubie? Oh, good. Okay, very good. That's the way this works. Joining us right now, we found this guy delightful. When we sat down to lunch with him, he had just taken the job at FAU and was getting things together with their football program, having previously coached at Texas. Very high-end stuff, big-time winning record, 5-0 in ball games, and a delight to bring to you here on the Defo Show with Mike Lubie. Tom Herman, the head coach at FAU football. Now, Tom, how are you? Good to have you on the program again.
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Coach.
All right,
sounds like I caught the tail end of a Kevin Heller roast, so I wish I would have caught the beginning of it.
Isn't he one of those guys like in Shawshank? Where you're thinking he can get you anything somehow, like whatever it is.
He is the get it done guy. You need jewelry, he's got it. You need food, he's got it. You need clothes, he's got it,
You need Earl of Pearl Monroe on your show to boost ratings with some, A-list guests. You got it. He sets that up for you, too. He's fantastic. Like that. All right, how would you characterize this first year? I mean, Lubie's telling me you had, an unfortunate bout of injuries, as a lot of teams do, but key players, and that might have compromised your chances of having success in terms of wins and losses. But what would you say? I mean, how would you characterize the experience, Tom, first year at FAU?
Yeah, it was certainly a learning experience for me, having taken 2 years off, one in the NFL, one in the broadcast booth. College football had changed quite a bit in those 2 years. So getting up to speed and all of that. And it kind of reminds me now, having been a part of taking over 3 programs at Houston and at Texas. When we took over at Houston, that was an 8-win team the year prior, and so they were only a couple steps away. We come out the gate and we go 13-1 and beat Florida State in the Peach Bowl. But when we get to Texas, we took over for 3 straight losing seasons, and that's tough to turn around in 1 year. And we squeaked by with 6 wins but it was year 2 that we won 10 games, beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and whatnot. And so I kind of have that feeling here. It was probably too much of an ask for, all of the crud that was here to kind of be gone. And then when you lose your starting quarterback, that's never a recipe. But We were 1-5 in one-score games last year. Last year's team was, and that's unlike any other year that I've had. And so we have the talent requisite enough to be in those games. We didn't quite have the culture to get us over the top, or the talent to just completely dominate guys. But the one good thing about the transfer portal is that after year one, we can kind of get rid of anybody we want, and they can kind of go wherever they want. And so we had this first team meeting in January, and I told the guys, I said, this is a beautiful scenario because you guys have spent a year with us, and you could have gone anywhere in the country, and you chose to come back. And guess what? We could have cut every single one of you, and we chose to keep you. So we are all here. We're all eyes wide open. We're not, this coaching staff isn't stuck with a roster. You're not stuck with a new coaching staff. So it really does feel finally like our team full of a bunch of guys that really want to be here.
What's interesting, Coach, is things have changed. It's funny, in 2 years, it felt like the sport changed 50 years. NIL went from being not only introduced, but overtaking the sport. The transfer portal went from sort of being there to becoming literally free agency. And it feels like it's affected every team, whether good or bad, be it keeping your own players, like you're saying, going and getting new players. Recruiting is literally right when the portal is, so it's a whole thing. And I know the NCAA is working on that right now. But we've literally seen coaches that were head coaches running from the sport. Your predecessor at FAU, Charlie Partridge, a good friend of ours, was with Pitt a long time, loved his job, and said, you know what? Personally, literally told me I just couldn't do it anymore. And he's now a defensive coach with the Indianapolis Colts in the NFL, because it's so funny, but the NFL seems simpler than college football. You're a guy that was out, now in, trying to figure it out. How has it been trying to figure out NIL, transfer portal, and still coach?
Yeah, well, it used to be that the NFL, it's always had a much better quality of life for a coach, but the job security wasn't near what it was in college. Now that's changed. I mean, they fired guys in the middle of their second year in college football recently, and so I think you look at that quality of life. I mean, when I was with the Bears, it was, for 2 months in the off season, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, had every weekend off. My phone didn't ring with any recruits. So it's a good life. It really is. And, but to your point, I don't think it is a small thing. For the first time in history of this great game, we've had 5 acting Division I head coaches quit their job to go do something other than be a head coach. And that's scary. And they all had their individual reasons for doing it, I'm sure, but all of them, I don't want to speak for them. Where college football is heading had something, if not everything, to do with it. And unfortunately, if we're going to keep digging our heels in, as administrators and calling these guys students and not employees, they're going to lose every lawsuit thrown their way. And, the sooner we allow multi-year contracts and we get everything out in the open that is in the open, because right now, you think that the NFL teams are owned by 32 billionaires, well, 31, and then the Packers are publicly owned. But if you came to them and said, hey, you're going to have 85 guys on 1-year contracts with player options every 6 months that they can get out of their contract, they would laugh at you in the face, and say that's the worst business model in the history of business models. And so, but that's where we're at right now in college football, and hopefully it changes soon, because it is certainly untenable at this point.
Tom Herman, our special guest. He's the head coach at FAU, great American as well, and interesting, well-rounded individual. One of the things, spring football coming up, and it's one of the things that you wanted to discuss here on the show. And as a guy that always had underwhelming results in terms of trying to impress coaches, that I should be moving up on any depth chart, whatever sport I was playing. I'm always curious about how open, when managers will tell you going into spring training, oh, geez, it's an open competition at first base, but they already have their guy. And even though you think it's, the other guy outplays him badly, hits 300 points higher, more home runs, and still the original guy gets the job. How open are you to being impressed by people, and how often does it happen where somebody that you maybe had given little consideration to as being an upcoming factor on your team just blows you away in spring, or is it a time where you can actually make advances on the roster?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm thinking out loud here, and, I've always been, egalitarian, if you will, when it comes to practice and a little bit in training camp. But now you got to wonder but that's when every kid was making the same salary too. And you had the exact same dollar amount invested in every kid too. Yeah. So that might change here as things go. But for us right now, no, training camp is when you earn a job. Spring practice is when you earn a job. That is, at the end of the day, there is an immense amount of competition. Yes, do you have to juggle 11 guys out there with the first team, the first day, the first practice? You do. But that's constantly in flux, constantly changing because, to be honest with you, outside of the first week of training camp, once you get past that first week of training camp, you're trying to win a game and get prepared for a season. And, there's not a whole lot of competition past that first week of training camp. And so the depth charts are usually solidified at that point, but there is a lot of competition in the spring, especially now. We've got 34 newcomers in January alone. We'll probably have another 15 to 20 in May. So it's a different team every year, and so there's bound to be a ton of competition.
Well, and you keep saying that word, and that's one of my favorite words when it comes to sports, because I think the great players want to be competitors, and it sort of weeds out the competition, weeds out the best from the best, and this and that. But again, now with the transfer portal, there's winter, and then after we start, then there's a spring window. How much does that come into play? Because to me, I know you sort of have to treat players differently, and players have earned respect. They should be treated like human beings, obviously, but you still have to coach. And as much as you don't want this guy to go or that guy to go, if you don't embrace the competition, right, how good can your team be? So how much do you take into account? Shoot, if I'm really hard on this guy, he may freaking transfer. Like, how much does that play into your coaching style these days as opposed to in the past?
A lot. I would be lying to you if I told you it didn't. I think the messages are all the same. It's, most of them in terms of 10 years ago, it's the delivery that's so important now. Young people are very sensitive, and they get their feelings hurt, and you try as best you can. The beauty of football, at least, why I'm the only child of a single mom. My dad died in a homeless shelter when he was 52 years old. So coaches were the male role models in my life, and they taught me what it was going to take to succeed in the real world. And I still think that's the job of a coach. And the real world, fortunately, we're still this way, that competitors and overachievers still succeed.
Yes.
Now we've got the everybody gets a trophy movement starting to creep in, but it's still, at least for these guys' lifetimes, I still believe that the guy that works the hardest, the guy that competes the most, the guy that invests the most is going to be the guy that's the most successful. And so we want guys that want to be here. And, if competing for your job is not something you want to do, then you're you're not cut out to win a championship anyway. So we're probably better off without you.
FAU head football coach Tom Herman with us here on the show. And it's interesting, too, because all the conversation that you hear surrounding college football seems to be centered around NIL and the transfer portal and how you can assemble a team or keep a team together with these elements in place. And yet, I mean, it was always a focal point was always recruiting. Where does recruiting fit in, Tom, right now? And how is the approach? It used to be Bobby Bowden to go in. He was able to stomach Mama's meatloaf, and the next thing you know, the kid signed at FSU and starred for several years as a Seminole. And on top of that, is Florida still the fertile path to greatness in terms of recruiting that was perceived to be a couple of years ago. Well, where do we stand in that regard?
Wow, you've opened a bunch of can of worms there.
Yeah.
So I think, back to the original point of guys wanting to be here and, guys choosing to be here. We took a lot of pride in our high school recruiting. I think we signed the second most high school recruits of anybody in our conference. A lot of teams are going the transfer portal route, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to pay great players. And whether it's in the transfer portal to get them on your campus, or once you get them here and you develop them into great players, you're going to have to keep them. You're going to have to pay them, or they're going to go to the Colorados of the world. Like we had a couple players here. They made a life decision that was best for them that we couldn't compete with. And so, unfortunately, we've got to find a way to be competitive when it comes to keeping our really good players here. But that, to me, is the way you go at a Florida Atlantic. Is you go recruit the heck out of high school players, you develop relationships with them. Go back to what Gino Ariema said. We're all trying as coaches to adapt to the current young person, but it's hard. That takes time. That takes relationships. And when they're always looking over their shoulder and they could be gone in 6 months, it's really difficult to build the requisite relationships that you need to coach and get out of people the things that you need to get out of them. And so that those relationships happen a lot in recruiting, I believe. And you look at the American Conference, the championship winning quarterbacks have all been high school signees. And so, we're going to rely heavily on the high school route because that's where relationships are built, and develop them and hope that those relationships plus the added crowdfunding, hopefully that will continue to garner, will be reason enough for our great players to stick around.
It's a long way from the $15 a month laundry money that they used to dole out there at the Cuse back in the day. That would stretch a long way too, including like $3 when you went on the road. Tom, I mean, what kind of expectation should the fans? I mean, what are we going to see from this FAU team this year if things work out in the fashion that you would hope?
Well, like I said, last year's team is that I used the word in my talk earlier, and I'm mad. We don't say we referring to last year. It's a completely different team. So last year's team, like I said, was 1-5 in one score game. So we had good enough talent to be there, but not superior talent to take us over the top. We had good enough culture to be there, but not superior enough culture to get us over the top. So I think we've upgraded our talent. We've got a transfer quarterback by the name of Cam Fancher that started 2 years at Marshall. He'll be competing with Tyreek Starks this spring, a young guy that's been in the program that really came on towards the end of the year last year. So we feel like we're in a really good spot there. Obviously, losing LeJontay Wester to Colorado, the nation's leading receiver, hurts. That receiver room is going to look a lot different, in a lot of good ways, though, too. So I think, the one thing I was complimented by everybody that cares about FAU football is they could tell we were playing hard, we were playing smart. We were just lacking a few key pieces, and we think we've addressed that both culturally and athletically. And I think, we're going to make a run at this thing this year.
Sounds good. I know you got to run, and speaking of running, but the fans, can they come out and watch some of the spring practices? Of course, I would imagine culminates with an upcoming spring game.
Yeah, spring game, April 13th, I know certainly is open to the public. We will have a public appreciation practice. I guess I don't have my calendar in front of me, but just keep your eyes on social media. We'll be publicizing that as well.
All right. Always great talking with you. Thanks so much. I'll have to get Kevin Special K to put together another bread-breaking ceremony there at Talia's Tuscan Kitchen, because they were great too. Thanks. Thanks so much for being with us.
Talk soon.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot. Tom Herman, ladies and gentlemen. He's a real gentleman, this guy.
Great, man.
Interesting story. I mean, think about it. He made enough money there. I mean, a buyout, I would imagine, from Texas was pretty.
It was insane.
Much enough to live several lifetimes without having to worry about any
Oh, it was
capital.
insane. And then he ended up working the next 2 years, so I'm sure he made money.
Yeah.
There as well,
and still wants to do it though at this level. And it had to be somewhat torturous last year going 4-8 like that. But nonetheless, had a couple of big victories, surprisingly. So, like you said, 1-5 in one-score games. Is that something you would count on coaching and maybe a little bit of an infusion of new talent? Sounded like he thought the team had some issues in terms of where they were at mentally.
Yep.
Did you not catch that from?
It felt like he was okay going from year 1 to year 2.
yeah, like he was ready to turn the page here. Get his own stuff going. A lot of fun today. Thanks, people, for tuning in. It was great being with you. Well, we'll do it again tomorrow. Tony Segreto goes old school with us tomorrow, and I'll be able to stick around for the show. Now that I'm off the IV bag syndrome here. That seems like a century ago now, Lubie. It really does, after like 1 week of being back to semi-normal. Although, whatever habits you started, then all of a sudden, you're thinking, geez, 9 o'clock, I think I'll hit the sack. And that's it. What happened to me, Lubie? I can't let this happen. I can't be taken over by, the senior desires that creep into your life and into your head. Like, a nap would be nice now. You're like, what are you fucking talking about? Get out there and hit a tennis ball. All right. You guys have a great day. It looks like another beauty here in South Florida. We will be coming to you later on from Tropical Acres. Wow. That's on, right, Lubie? Is that?
Yes, sir. I got confirmation today. The Studio Alleys will host us, or we'll host them, and back at Tropical Acres. Super excited.
I like when Mayo, who is always saying, "Hey, don't order this, don't order that." He got turned on to a brand new dish that he never would have tried there.
Yep.
Because he was such a creature of habit with his filet mignon and his prime rib and the lobster special, and then it's like, "Hey, dude, don't ignore the other stuff they have there, man. This is why they've been in business for 70-something years. Unbelievable, right? What is it, like 75 years? I think 75. So.
This is their 75th year anniversary, and I am impressed that the prime rib is as good as
prime rib is excellent. I mean, it really is.
And they're still introducing new stuff, and they hit out of the park. That Marsala, what was it? Surf and Turf Marsala was.
That was great. Yeah, wow.
That was fantastic.
I mean, Mayo's craving the Skyline chili, but I would crave something along those lines at this point in my life. All right. Now, we'll see you from Tropical Acres later on. It's always great. Very classy. And I always feel a great attachment to these guys because they were big in sponsoring horse racing early in the game here. When I came here in the 80s, they were doing the Bob Savage show, Let's See the Races. Sam Studiali was always getting a live mention on TV. This was sort of pioneering turf at that time, Lubie, because there weren't a lot of television outlets as there are now. There's a zillion platforms. Hell, we're on a thing I never even heard of, Caffeine TV, right? Mm-hmm. And that's been driving some of our national claim and fame here. But I mean, they were always classy, representing the game there. Sam Studiali, I guess, I like going to the track, and now Jack, his son. What a magnificent job they do there. So going to be a pleasure being out there later on today. All right, Louis, good job. That was a lot of fun. Reno, sorry about the sound. It was unfortunate there. It was a little bit of a mess up. And then Tom Herman, great. I mean, wow, you could talk to that guy all day, no?
Yep.
What a well thought out, series of things he had to say here on the show. And that was all off the cuff, too. So, I mean, it wasn't like he knew that you were going to ask him about. I guess it's fairly common to talk about the influence of NIL and the transfer portal, but remember when Jim Larinaga, had this kind of alarming sense about it?
Yep.
When he came on the show, and this was when it was first being talked about that it was going to happen.
Years ago.
Man, I mean, was he not right? The chaos level is even more out of control than ever.
Yep.
It's weird. I mean, not that it is undeserved, because I've always been an advocate of this, but it is kind of strange to see, like, Nigel Pack step on the court there and miss a couple of threes, and you're thinking the kid's making $800,000 a year or something. Yeah. Whatever money they're paying this guy. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We're with Tony Segreto. We'll go old school. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Always appreciate the great job that they do with us. Ed Garcia, pleasure having him on the show. He's become a commentator in his own right? Our official Michigan correspondent. And we'll see you tomorrow. As we leave, you know that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.